Hello and welcome back to the Preppy podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. Today I am interviewing Beth. She is the founder of Kahora Palm Beach. They make amazing dresses and resort style pieces that are just so beautiful and effortless and obviously very Palm Beach inspired. But before we get into this interview, I have a lot of exciting announcements. As you're listening to this, we are currently at our Camp Preppy Hamptons event. So I'm thrilled to share that on the preppypodcast.com, you can find the rest of our upcoming 2026 Camp Preppy retreats. We are going to Beaver Creek in June. We are going to Barnsley Resort in Georgia in August. And then we are going to Kennebunkport in October. So they all have a very different vibe, but lots of fun and all beautiful places. Beaver Creek, we're going to be enjoying nature and the outdoors. Think that sort of vibe. Then for Barnsley Resort, this is technically our first southern retreat, so I'm super excited about that. I know we have a lot of southern attendees and listeners, and I think old school southern down there, lots of color and fun preppy sports. It's a great resort that has so much to offer. And then finally Kennebunkport in October. It's peak leaf peeping season, and I'm kind of using that as our 1 year anniversary for Camp Preppy. We started Camp Preppy in September of 2025, so that one will be really special. I'm doing a lot of branded and exclusive products for attendees, and it's just going to be a great camp, all of them, honestly. So make sure to get your tickets at thepreppypodcast.com. They will go fast. The Hamptons event ended up going really, really quickly, and I've had people reach out since then asking for when the next ones are. So here you go. Here are all three of 2026. So get your tickets while you can. And in the meantime, though, if you're not ready for a camp, then you should join Club Preppy. So Club Preppy was started for the in-between seasons of camp, and basically it includes at least one virtual event per month, plus a fun surprise in the mail and exclusive discounts to some of my favorite preppy brands. The members have been loving all that we're doing in Club Preppy. We even have an exclusive group chat that people are always supporting each other and sharing some of their favorite preppy finds and articles about being preppy. Some of the activities we've done so far are wine tastings, a signature style event, just lots and lots of fun. So you can find information on that as well at thepreppypodcast.com. All right, let's get into this week's episode.
All right, so why don't you first let everyone know who you are, where you live, and what you do?
Perfect. So I am Beth Taylor, and I am the founder and creative director of Kahora Palm Beach, which is a luxury women's resort wear company based in Palm Beach, Florida.
Excellent. And originally, I think I found you through the Southern Sea, perhaps a few months
I
ago,
think that's right. Yeah.
when I was in Palm Beach, and I just love your beautiful dresses. So I'm wearing one actually for those who are watching on YouTube. So I'm thrilled to have you on the podcast today and learn more about you and your business. But let's kind of start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about you as a kid. Were you someone that's always loved fashion, were like taking your mom's clothes? Were you someone that maybe had an aunt who had fabulous style, like, or maybe just inspired by entrepreneurship? Like, what was your childhood like?
Well, the first thing I have to say is I listened to last week's podcast when you spoke with Hillary about being an only child. And I actually happen to be an only child too. So I
Yeah.
thought that conversation was so wonderful. I love it that you're an only child and she's an only child. And I just thought it was so interesting that I had never really thought about it, but that only children often tend to be entrepreneurs. I just thought that was so wonderful. And actually really resonated with me because I was a very imaginative kid. I was always creating stories in my mind. And, I kind of had to entertain myself. So there was a lot of creativity happening.
Yeah, wait, I love that you were an only child too. That's so fun.
Yeah, yeah. So I will say this: I've always loved fashion. I've always felt like I've had an eye. A lot of my friends sort of look to me as the person that you know had the eye or had the say, which was very nice. And I grew up actually in the 80s, so you know, getting that Benetton rugby or Forenza sweater or Guess jeans was always just super super exciting, and I
Yeah.
felt like I could always put it together pretty well. My mom was very intent when I was very little on dressing me in like a new beautiful, not maybe not every day, a beautiful dress when
Yeah.
she could, and with the bow in my hair. And I look back at pictures, and I think a lot of that might come from her just really being being aware of being put together, and just loving beautiful clothing. So
Yeah.
that was I would say the fashion part of it. And I actually had two grandmothers that were very influential for me. My mom's mom was actually the person that taught me to sew, and she was so wonderful. She just was like the warmest, funniest, just fun spirit. She would just give me all the time in the world, and we would go together to fabric markets, and we would come back and just create. So that was really a wonderful part of my childhood. And later on, she taught me to knit and to crochet.
Mhm.
Um, and, I just have wonderful memories of that. My dad's mother actually was, oh my gosh, she was quite a force of nature. She was a ceramics aficionado.
Wow.
So she had a basement in her, sorry, a studio in her basement, and she would bring me downstairs, and I just have these memories of seeing these like unfinished projects on the shelves, and the kiln in the corner. And she taught me ceramics. It was so wonderful to have that one-on-one time with her. And she had the precision of a surgeon, which I do not, unfortunately, but she did. And what was so great about her is she taught me process. She really instilled that in me, which was a wonderful thing. And I still contend that her nativity set is nicer than any nativity set I've ever seen in a store.
Wow.
She actually made a complete set for my mom and dad as a wedding gift, and then my aunt and uncle as a wedding gift. And they're really like beautiful family
Oh my gosh.
heirlooms. And
Yes. How special is that?
very, very, very special. And then my mom, who I spoke of before, she wasn't really a creator, but
Okay.
she really like instilled in me a love of culture. We lived an hour outside New York City, so she was always bringing me in to the Met or the MoMA, or to a Broadway show. We did that a lot. And I think you live in
Outside
Pennsylvania.
Philadelphia. So I'm very close to New York and often there.
I don't know if you know Bucks County Playhouse,
Yes.
but it was a place we would go. It was actually about an hour outside our outside where we live too. So we
Yeah.
would go there a lot and see little off Broadway musicals, and that was super
Wow.
fun. So she
I know.
really instilled a love of culture in me as well.
Definitely. It sounds like you had a little bit of the creativity running in your family and supported there, the arts and culture, like you mentioned, and a love for fashion. It's so funny. I was looking through old pictures of me as a child. And I was like, wow, I was dressed so fabulously when I was little. And it's all because of my mom. And it sounds like the same way with you. Like, I was like, I approve all of this styling.
Yeah, yeah, it's so great. Do you love old pictures? I can't get enough of old
Yes.
pictures.
Yep, 1,000%. We were just going through some of my grandparents too, and I just love looking back on, these old classic pictures and old fashion, and a lot of it is still, so chic today. So it's so fun. But tell me a little bit then, when it came time for college, where and what did you study? Was it something relating to fashion or arts, or business, or something completely different?
Well, it's sort of interesting. I felt like, even though I talked about my childhood, I really took a very long break from the arts, in that I was an athlete, and that
Okay.
was like 100% the focus of my I would say middle school and high school years. So
Mhm.
it actually wasn't until college that I sort of rediscovered the arts again. I had a wonderful professor of fine arts, art history, that just oh my gosh, she was so great. She just really believed in me, and I felt very connected with her, and she just I think instilled that love. And she was the one actually that encouraged me to pursue a museum job, which I did. And I've actually recently reconnected with her after a little while, and that's been really fun. Of course, she's done fabulous things and written a bunch of books, so
Oh
which
my
is
gosh.
no surprise.
How rewarding, I'm sure, to go back and connect with her. I feel like I talk with a lot of women, and a lot of us have that one teacher who steered us in the right direction, or suggested we do something, or put in this fire or love in us of something that we might not have known before. And so many of us wish we could go back and thank that person and connect with them. So it's so amazing that you were able to do that.
It's true. It's true. So I studied. You asked what I studied in college. I actually did not study fashion.
Okay.
My major was human and organizational development, which is sort of a big. I went to Vanderbilt,
Yeah.
which is a big major there, and I minored in art history. And I just kind of by the end, I knew I really did want to work at a museum, and I applied to three internships. Smithsonian Hirshhorn Museum, the National Gallery of Art, and then ironically, the Flagler Museum, which is located in Palm Beach, which I
Yes.
just think is so funny that it was kind of random that I applied there, but I
Yeah.
did. Maybe I thought Palm Beach would be fun. And the only one I got was the Flagler.
Okay.
Um, but at that point, I kind of thought, I really do want to live in DC. So I went up to Washington and basically told them they had to hire me, which I managed to secure an internship there, which later led to a job. Um,
Wow. I mean, that
and
must have took some guts to go in and be like, no, I deserve to be here. I need to be here. And good for you. I feel like that's for anyone listening that's a student, or, maybe not even a student, but just wishing for a dream job and hasn't gotten it. I feel like taking that initiative is such a big step and major.
I think there is something to be said for blind confidence.
Mhm.
I think that is, I don't know if you've ever read the book The Secret, but
No.
basically the power of positive thinking and
Yeah.
just willing things to happen. I think that is often, could lead to our destiny
Yes.
um, in a big way.
1,000%. So then tell me a little bit about your career journey then, from, getting that position in DC at that museum all the way up into the moment where you want to get back into fashion and create something.
So let's see. So I worked in Washington for a little while, and I then followed my husband actually up to Boston. We had decided we were going to get married. I was actually a young bride at 25, and I at that point really wanted to work at the Museum of Fine Arts
Okay.
and just sort of like transfer over. They had a hiring freeze, which wasn't great. But I decided instead to become a teacher for a few years, and then I guess congruently get my master's in education. So I worked at Dexter Southfield School for a few years, and then at that point, my husband was transferred back to New York, and as we were transferring, I had gotten the wonderful news that I was pregnant, and at that point, I decided. Just to be home with my kids, and
Mhm.
I knew we were going to have a big family. So I ended up having my son, and then a few years later, had twins. So
Wow.
I had three little boys under the age of 3. And then my daughter came a few years later. And then 4 kids under the age of 6.
Wow.
So at that point, I'm not one of those people that I think could do both. I so admire the women that do. I think it's just amazing to me. But, I had made the decision that I was going to be home with them. And, really, I think for a bunch of years, involved myself in charity work. We were living in Greenwich, Connecticut at the
Yeah.
time. And, it wasn't until about 2015, 16 that something started stirring in me that, I knew that my second act was about to happen.
Yes, that creativity itch and doing something for yourself, right? I hear that a lot.
Yes, I was really intentional about when I wanted to start the business because I just didn't want to start something and kind of do it halfway and have to come back to it. So,
Yeah.
I tried to really pay attention to that.
That makes total sense. So you get this creative itch, you want to do something, create something for yourself. It's the right time. So what was sort of the initial steps? Like, how did you land on clothing versus, let's say, jewelry or handbags or something else? And then what sort of did you want to define your brands? Like, I think of these beautiful prints, these great materials that you can wear, if you're coming from the beach, but then also you can dress up at night. So tell me about like how you landed where you wanted to be in the marketplace.
So I really felt like there was a need in the market for it. I have had the wonderful pleasure of having a lot of very fashionable friends. And I think collectively we just decided that, there was a need in the market for a particular type of resort wear. I knew I wanted to create something that was very comfortable, very sophisticated, um, great fabrics and unique fabrics. So that was sort of in my mind. I at that point in time I really couldn't find that for myself to
Yeah.
wear. Um, so that was the other thing I actually wanted to create was something that was packable,
Mm.
that people could take on vacation easily. If somebody wanted to jet off to San Tropez, they could throw the dress in a suitcase and just go, or have it hanging from that for them, waiting for them in the Hamptons. That was something that was important to me, sort of like a go-to dependable dress that was also very sophisticated.
That makes total sense. So you have this idea, this vision of what you want your brand to be. Now, what are sort of the steps to launching it, to putting it out there, to making the product, like all of those little things that it's one thing to have a great idea, but it's another thing to actually do it and put it into fruition. So how did you come up with the silhouettes, source a manufacturer, get samples? Like, what did that process look like, especially, because you didn't have a background in fashion? How hard was that?
It was very hard, but luckily I'm sort of the queen of researching. So
Okay.
that was, I think if you have that skill and you are starting a business, you will go very far.
Mhm.
um, so I started actually with one silhouette.
Okay.
And I did that intentionally because I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew. And I knew what I wanted to create. I found a pattern maker. I found somebody to create something on a very small scale. The MOQs were low,
Mhm.
and I at this point in time only used market fabric.
Okay.
We would go on later to do our own prints, but at this point in time, I took the silhouette and I created it in, I would say, about 20 different fabrics.
Okay.
And I brought it to Nantucket with me and convinced a store there. God bless Rachel from Kativo. Her store is still wonderful in there.
Uh-huh.
She carried them, and that summer I sold 149 dresses.
Wow.
I was in the
Just from that one store?
It's from that one store. Yep.
Oh,
I mean, that one store, but also I think I had a big trunk show at my
okay.
house with a bunch of my friends. But
Mhm.
that summer is what we sold. And it felt like all the dresses in the world to me. I was so happy that summer. I remember like walking into cocktail parties and I would see the dress, and it was just the best. I'll never forget that. So at that point, summer was over and I came home, and I was at a dinner party and someone introduced me. Sorry, I was actually with a friend at a dinner party, and she told me, "You need to meet my friend Stephanie von Wadsdorf. She started the company Fig and is just fabulous, and she will be able to help you." So Stephanie actually acted as a mentor for me for the good part of a year, and just taught me everything about factories and fittings and repeats, and just kind of everything I needed to know. It was almost like my mini Parsons in a
Yeah.
year. And
That is
that spring, I was set to receive my first samples,
okay.
and they came, and I didn't like them,
Oh no.
and it was really a tough moment. And I had to make the very difficult decision not to launch that collection
Yes.
this summer. And I feel like that's an important story because in fashion, we all know it all doesn't always work out as we would like it to.
Yeah.
And so, I just really felt like if I didn't believe in this collection, it would not sell. I
Mhm.
felt like, I just really needed to believe in it. So I knew the only thing I knew to do, and I went back to what I had done the previous summer and just took that silhouette and, made it in new fabrics. And maybe I added like one or two other silhouettes, but
Okay.
it was primarily that one. And we did great. People still bought them and liked them, and it was fine for then.
Yes. I think, I think some things before we move on that are so important about what you said about this beginning of the journey is sticking to one silhouette, because I think a lot of brands do that. We just don't realize it, but that kind of makes sure that you have a place in the market. It gets a customer base going. And then also, you mentioned finding like a mentor to help you. I think that's so important too. And like you said, it was like your Parsons in that little bit of time. So finding someone who's willing to help you, and doing your research. Like you said, it sounds like you're a person who, if you have an idea, you can do it and you'll get it done. And I think a lot of people have ideas, but they're not willing to put in the work in terms of research or in terms of putting themselves out there. Like even with that first internship or job, and going there in person and saying you deserve to be there. So I think that's really what makes an entrepreneur. And also maybe that's a little bit of the only child in you, is having that confidence that probably your parents instilled in you in a young age. So, and then going off of that as well, you mentioned having this new collection, your second collection, and not being happy with it. But instead of putting it out there when you didn't believe in it, taking the time and wait and correct it is so important, that you don't always have to rush into everything. And you might have to skip a season, or it might not be exactly what you want it to be, but make it work in what you're comfortable with, right?
Without a doubt. I so agree with that. So I came home the end of the summer back to Palm Beach from Nantucket, and I knew at this point I had to get to work. Like I just needed to focus and like you know, do this the right way. So I basically spent all of my time finding a really good factory, just really good print designers. I sort of lined up the infrastructure of it. And it took a little while, but by spring, that capsule collection came back and it was amazing. They were items that I would personally wear. I just felt really good about it. And, I took it back with me to Nantucket, and, that was the beginning.
I love it. Okay, so Then that's kind of the real beginning of the brand, I guess, from expanding into multiple silhouettes. So tell me about then how you grew it from just launching in Nantucket at one store, just with family and friends, from one silhouette into growing a line. How did you get it out there? Like, were you doing more, reaching out to more stores? Did you do some wholesale shows? Were you using social media? Like, what sort of helped get the word out and grow it?
I think all of the above.
Yeah.
I think, I have a friend that's a fashion designer, and she sat down with me and she said, Beth, you can do some sales right now, but you must hit the road. That's the best advice I can give you. And just hit the road, do all the trunk shows you can. You need to build your customer clientele.
Yes.
And that was really like, I won't say who it is, but she's pretty well known. She had the best advice ever, because it just, that's really what's helped us grow the most, in my opinion.
Yes.
I think social media is very important, although not always my comfort zone. I, have had to embrace it. And I just think kind of saying yes to everything. And when somebody says, I have a friend that you need to meet in the business, always saying yes to that, because
Yes.
I've had a whole bunch of situations where I've met people that have really been able to help me in ways that are unexpected and wonderful.
Oh, I'm sure. I always say yes and figure it out later. That's something my grandfather has taught me, and my mom always told me growing up. So I am totally in the same boat there with that. Now, you mentioned earlier you started the brand with prints that were sort of more generic that you would just buy. On the market, and then later started developing your own prints and, patterns and designs. So, what was that decision like, and when did you make that decision, and kind of how do you think that's helped the brand evolve?
Well, I think the fact that we don't look like anyone else, I think I hear that all the time, that, there's nothing like you, which is a wonderful compliment to us. I think I've been able to really explore my love for color and different color combinations in doing that. It's very hard when it's market fabric, you can't really change anything. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of experimentation that goes along with creating our own prints. It's not easy. I would say a good, trying to think of the exact number, 65% of the prints that we design just like
Yeah.
never make it to market, never even really make it to a sample.
Okay.
There have been some that I've been so sure that that's going to be our best seller, and you put it on a dress and you think, no one would wear that. So
I
that's
feel like it'd be better for wallpaper, maybe.
yeah, exactly. Great tablecloth. Yeah. So that's a fun process. And most of the prints are either medium to large scale, which complicates things even further. Um, a repeat might cut off in a funny place on the waist and just like completely ruin the silhouette. But at the same time, I do love large scale. So
Yeah.
when it works, it's so good.
Definitely. So, sort of going off of that too, then, where do you find inspiration when it comes to prints or silhouettes or anything? Like, where are you finding inspiration?
Oh my gosh, all places. I get a lot of inspiration from here in Palm Beach. A lot of the flowers. I'll be walking on the golf course, and I drive my friends crazy. I'm sure I'll be like, oh my gosh, look at that! Look at the way the leaf hits the flower. It's just so the line is, it's in the most unexpected places.
Yes, yes,
Um, I might be walking and I see, a tablecloth against a lamp, or and there's a color combination that really speaks to me.
yes.
um really unexpected places, and it's just it's just always having it in the back of your mind, kind of thinking about what
Mhm.
might be a good print.
Definitely. I mean, I love the colors in this one. You talked a little bit about color combinations and prints, and I think the colors in this are so pretty and actually goes very well with my background. It's all the colors, the pinks, the
It
greens, the
does.
blues.
It matches perfectly, right down to the little lamp in the background. It's perfect.
Exactly. So what's been a pinch me moment or something you're really proud of with the business so far?
Oh gosh. Oh, let me think about this one. Let's see. Some of the people that have complimented the line have been very, very exciting. Apparently, Martha Stewart is a big fan, and that's kind of neat. And
Yes. How do you know Martha's a big fan? Like, has she ordered or have you met her at an event or something?
yes, so she I guess her dear friends, like very close friends, told me that she thought our caftans are fabulous.
Oh my gosh, the highest compliment.
Yeah, a good one. I'm trying to think of like who else is coming to mind. We've had a few that have been really exciting. I would say the thing we're most proud of, well, two things. One is we were named Best Cotton Dress in Travel and Leisure magazine, so that was very exciting. Um, Us magazine named us something great. Um, a Vogue editor reached out asking for product. That was really exciting. But I think maybe I wouldn't say it's a pinch me moment. It's something that just like brings me joy. I keep a folder in my phone of compliments that customers have given.
Okay.
It's just so, if I'm having like not the best day, it's just so nice to go back and read them, and it's just that's been really something nice
That
to have.
is a really great tip. And I think I'm going to start to do that because everyone has bad days where, you get a customer who complains, or maybe it's just, rainy today. It's actually rainy here and gross. So I think that's so smart to have it on your phone. I save little note cards that, like, people, if they're mailing me something or I don't know, have given me something, they'll write like a sweet little note and I'll keep some of those and keep them in a drawer. But I like having it so accessible on a phone, like you mentioned. So that I'm going to take that and do that myself.
I should read it more than I do, but I always know it's there, and
Yes,
it's nice to have.
exactly. So you mentioned, some great press spotlights that you've received. Did you work with a PR and marketing firm to get those? Or were they all on your own? I think a lot of people who listen to the podcast, they're always wondering, how to get their brand out there. And obviously, me working in PR, I know, but I'm curious how that worked for you and if you had any tips there.
You know what? Let's see. My advice actually would be wait a little while to work with a PR company. And then when you do, it will be fabulous. But I think early on doing it yourself, as long as you have the infrastructure and have the personality to do, to advocate for yourself. Not everybody is really comfortable in that space. Like there are moments as having your own company that you have to put yourself in sort of an uncomfortable, awkward position and ask things that are really like not so fun.
Yes.
So if you're sort of okay with that and kind of can move past it, I think in the beginning it's nice to do your own PR and just really um, be able to control
Hmm.
the message out there. But I
Yeah.
think I think later on, I think having PR is a wonderful thing,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Definitely. So who would be a dream customer? It sounds like, I mean, Martha is iconic, but is there anyone else that you would absolutely love to see your designs
Oh
on?
gosh. Oh my gosh. There's so many. There's so many. Well, obviously, Princess Kate. I mean,
Hmm.
who I think that's probably everybody's. And I find this whole love story thing just so funny. My daughter is like just so taken with it, and we watch Love Story together, and it's so great. And I just want to say, like duh, like we all that was like our icon from like a million years ago. So it's just it's really it's so funny to watch these young people kind of fall in love again with JFK and Carolyn.
Right.
But let's see who would be. Oh my gosh. Oh wow. Hmm.
I mean, Princess Kate is a great one. I could totally see her
Yeah.
on vacation, in chasing after her kids by the beach or pool, one of your beautiful caftans. So I think she's a really good one.
Maybe when Taylor Swift has a baby, she would be a good, I feel like we have like a very specific dress or strapless dress. People
Uh-huh.
have always said that's like the greatest maternity dress.
Oh,
Um, maybe somehow we could set that up in some way.
yes, definitely. She's a great one as well. Um, any sneak peeks or things you're working on right now? We're recording this in March, and I'm sure you're designing months ahead. But anything fun you can share?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but we just launched pajamas.
Ooh,
I actually have some with me if you want me to show any. I'm
yeah,
happy
show
to.
them off.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, of course. For people watching on YouTube, it's great.
Okay, good. So this is our shorty set here. I don't
You
know.
so a little green and white stripe.
Yeah, it's very Palm Beach, green and white, and that has done very, very well, especially in the Palm Beach area.
Hmm.
And um, we have a bunch more. I just brought two.
Yeah,
This is called Bluebell and another shorty dress, or shorty set rather. Little blue flowers, and
so
this.
beautiful.
Thank you. And our most exciting news is that we are launching Mahjong pajamas.
Oh, fun! Oh my gosh.
And not only are we launching them, it's a really good, pretty design. It actually kind of matches the wallpaper. It matches the color vibe in the
Oh
background.
my gosh. Okay.
Um,
So when are those launching then? Because I have a lot of Mahjong fans that follow me and listen to the podcast. So when will they launch?
so great. They should be here end of April.
End of April? Okay.
I just have to say this is like some of the best fabrics, softest, best quality. I'm very proud of the fabric and the construction of it.
Excellent. Oh my gosh. Everyone is going to be thrilled for these Mahjong pajamas. Do you play Mahjong yourself?
I do. I do. I'm a little bit obsessed.
Yeah. Everyone I feel like is right now. So they're going to do amazing.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
Well, so last question is what piece of advice would you have for someone listening, someone who maybe is interested in starting a business or maybe just starting out their business and needs some motivation? What piece of advice would you give them?
Well, a few things. As we talked about before, really putting yourself out there. It will not work unless you're willing to put yourself out there. That is, I think, one of the first and foremost, like just foundations. It's very necessary. And I think that it's a lot harder than people think at first. I
Yeah.
think people sometimes think, oh my gosh, I'm going to start a business and it's just like no big deal. And I'll just like, put 10 hours a week in it. It's a lot of time. People have to be really sure. And you just really have to be all in, I
Yes.
think.
Yeah. No, that's
So
great advice.
I would say that's my that's one and two. I think, as you mentioned before, having a mentor is just a wonderful thing, whether it's, one or many, just learning from people, um, you know, what they say to do and what not to do, I think is equally as important. And I would say really, the travel of it is, that's been a big positive for me. Just,
Yeah.
meeting people and getting into different markets, and you never know when a friend will have a friend.
Exactly. That's great advice, which I think that also goes with the networking and mentoring too, is you never know who knows who connect you with someone that you might need, now or further down the line. So it's always good to put yourself out there and keep connecting.
Mhm. I would say one more thing also, that we were talking about silhouettes. I think a lot of companies, um, there's a lot of pressure to create new,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of companies get off. They want to create new so much that they get off track. So really staying true to the foundation of the original business, what people fell in love with in the first place.
Mhm.
I can think of a few companies in my mind that they're almost like unrecognizable to what
Yeah.
they once were. So, creating new is great, but just still keeping the
The original DNA, right? Yes. Oh my gosh, Beth. Well, this was so fun. I absolutely loved learning more about you and your business today. I love your dresses, as people watching can see I'm wearing right now. So I really appreciate your time and you being on the Preppy podcast. Let's wrap up with letting everyone know where they can find you, your website, social media handles, anywhere else you want to shout out so that they can follow along, shop, and support.
So great. So it is Kahora Palm Beach. Kahora actually happens to be my maiden name for people
Oh.
that don't know. A lot of people my whole life have told me it sounds beachy. So I thought how perfect for, to name my company after.
I thought it was like an island somewhere that I hadn't heard of.
So it's KAHORA, palmbeach.com. And then Instagram and Facebook is the same at Kahora Palm Beach.
Perfect. That's easy. Well, thank you so much, Beth.
Thank you, Patricia. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for listening to the Preppy Podcast. I hope this put a little prep in your step for the day. Please subscribe, rate, and review on wherever you listen to your podcast, and follow along with @the Preppy Podcast on social media.